Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world.
Welcome back to Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world. My name is Jeremy. I'm your host, and I am thrilled to be bringing you the untold stories of hospitality. We're peeling back the curtain in the lobby to show you what truly goes on between check-in and check-out. These are the stories that are told at the bar after shifts, over dinner, when you come home to your family, and you're going to start the conversation by saying, "You will not believe what happened to me today." Now, the stories are going to be heartfelt. They're going to make you laugh. Some of them might shock you, but it's going to be a highly entertaining visit with the hospitality industry. We're officially launching in January 2026, and I could not be more excited. The interviews that I have lined up and the people that I'm bringing to you from around the world have truly kept me entertained with their stories that they're telling, and you will be equally entertained. Wait for it and watch for us in January 2026, wherever you get your podcast, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your preferred platform. And of course, you can watch us on YouTube as well. Give us a like, a follow, and keep engaged as best as you can as we launch this thing. Your support means the world to me, and it'll be really great to continue to see this grow, because as you know, if you're in the hospitality industry, or if you're married to anyone in the hospitality industry, or if you just travel and take part in the hospitality industry, the stories that go on behind the scenes are really what makes the industry as fun and as dynamic and as entertaining as it is. This is the stuff that we live for. You know, we get together over cocktails and just rip stories one after the other of things that have happened. And it's what connects us. This is my goal, to connect us through the untold stories here that we're about to share. Now, before we launch, my goal is to tease out a few stories from my own travels that give a peek into the content and the kind of stories we expect to hear from our guest on the podcast. Now, this is a Fernando Botero themed podcast. The stories I'm about to tell you, and I'll tell you two of them, both have to do with Fernando Botero. Now, if you're unfamiliar with who Botero is, he's a Colombian artist who recently passed away, sadly, about maybe say 3 or 4 years ago. But he is renowned for painting very portly figures and portraits. And he is an icon in Colombia, one of the most famous artists in the world, really, but certainly one of the most famous ever to be born in Colombia. We are on a site visit. This particular story has to do with imposters, people who pretend to be what they're not. So if you're unfamiliar with what a site visit or a fam tour is, a familiarization tour, it's when hotels invite you down, hotels or destinations or certain cities, etc., invite you to the destination or to a hotel to get to know it. The idea is that the better you know the destination, the more prepared you'll be to send it to your clients and to sell it essentially as the destination for your clients to participate in. So I was on a fam trip. It was the first time I had ever visited Colombia. This was in 2013, so 12 years ago. And we were in the lovely city of Cartagena. And there's so many stories within the story, because the first time in Cartagena, I think one of the convincing lines to me that I had heard, and that it ended up bearing out to be true, was, the Colombian hospitality wing of the government, essentially their Convention and Visitors Bureau, had a marketing campaign that perfectly summed up an experience in Colombia. And it said, the risk is that you're going to want to stay, right? Colombia is branded, especially after the difficult years in the 90s and the early 2000s with the drug war, that it was a very dangerous, risky place to go. Well, they turned this concept on its head, and they said the risk is that you're going to want to stay. In other words, if you go there, you're not going to want to leave. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened to me when I came to Colombia for the first time in 2013. I found a beautiful country, an amazing city in Cartagena, a vibrant culture, amazing food. It was just, the list went on and on and on. But while we're there, this was a fam trip, so it's not just me who's invited. I'm invited with a group of other folks in the travel industry, folks who theoretically have business to give to the destination. Now, if you're planning a fam trip, if you've ever planned a fam trip in your life, you'll know that sometimes it gets a little tricky to get qualified buyers to come down. And what do I mean by a qualified buyer? I mean people who actually have business, who can actually move events to the city or destination. Because there's a lot of people in the industry who pretend to have business. They want to fake like they have business, but they really don't. And it becomes pretty evident once you get the people on the fam trip, if they were able to finagle their way in, or essentially misrepresent their quality of their business coming down, you can spot them pretty easily as you go through the fam trip as to whether they actually have business or not. As a travel professional, it kind of gives other travel professionals a bad name when we have people taking advantage of these, opportunities to come down, because the idea is to bring qualified people who can move business to your destination. There's never a guarantee you're going to get a piece of business out of a fam trip. I've hosted plenty in my life when I was on the hotel side of the industry, but you do your best to at least target folks who have a decent shot of bringing business to your destination. Again, if you're in the industry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, it became pretty clear on this particular trip in Cartagena that there was a few people, and one in particular, who just didn't have a lot of business. The more they talked, the more you realize that they don't even have the first clue as to what goes into planning a group, what goes into bringing travelers to a destination. And it became a little bit of an inside joke with the people who were on this fam trip that this person clearly was in over their head. I can give you multiple stories about things that she had said that really gave an indication that she was a suspect and not a prospect. We're looking for prospective business and not suspects who just don't have any kind of business to move at all in the first place. Well, again, it became a little bit of an inside joke as she continued to talk, and we would kind of all scratch our heads and say, where did that question come from? All the professionals who were doing this and do business on a regular basis almost became increasingly frustrated with the level of amateur questions that she was presenting, perhaps. But the kicker came in, and this is the funny punchline of the whole thing. The kicker came in when during one of our tours. Now, we've been on tours all week long. And again, Fernando Botero, being this iconic artist here in Colombia, has his artwork everywhere. There's statues, there's paintings. Some of the hotels we go into have Botero suites. In fact, one of the nicest hotels in Cartagena, the Sofitel Santa Clara, has a Botero suite, which is themed with all of his artwork. And to remind you, his artwork are very portly people. The person who's the suspect approaches the organizer of the event, the fam trip, and says, I don't understand. I really don't speak Spanish that well, but help me understand. Is the word for chubby people or fat people potato? And the organizer was taken back and said, I'm sorry, potato? She goes, yeah. Every time we see these portly people, either in the statue or one of the paintings, everyone's always saying potato, potato. She had obviously and clearly confused the word Botero, who is the last name, which is the last name of the artist, for potato. And at that moment, it was peak irony, heightened hilarity. Everyone kind of rolled their eyes, trying to stifle a laugh. But it was a moment of, if we had any suspicions that this person really wasn't paying attention and really wasn't there for the business to be moved, that moment confirmed it. So, lesson to be learned, guys: if you have business for a destination, by all means, take advantage of the fam trips, take advantage of the trips that they offered you to come see the destination. If you don't, just kindly decline. Say no. You don't want to be that person on the fam trip that's the suspect and not the prospect. Yeah, lesson learned. Okay, the final story I'll tell this teaser here also has to do with Fernando Botero. Now, if you are a professional who works and has worked in Maui at the Grand Wailea Resort, you can confirm this story. I have researched this story. I've tried to find if it's actually true. I don't have any confirmation of it actually being true. It's almost like folklore at this point, but it is a highly entertaining story that I've never forgotten. I traveled to the Grand Wailea Resort. I've only been to Hawaii once. Of all my travels, Hawaii has only come up on my radar one time, and it was back in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. There are several stories from this trip that I could tell, but this one always caught my attention. I met with the sales manager for the hotel, and we did a site tour. It was more of a courtesy site because I was working as a hotelier at this point. I wasn't driving business to hotels, but it was just a courtesy site visit from the hotel sales manager. We sat and had breakfast. Now, if you know anything about the Grand Wailea Resort, the artwork in that hotel is almost as valuable as the hotel itself. I've heard some reports that say the artwork will actually outpace the value of the hotel because it's that valuable. They've got such a collection of art in that hotel, eclectic from all over the world. But one of the prominent pieces in the lobby is a massive statue of Fernando Botero. So here we are, back to the Botero theme. Now, the story goes that statue is in the lobby for a very specific reason. It was originally commissioned that Botero was going to put the statue of a reclining nude, so it was a naked woman with a big booty, on the front drive. Now, as the legend has it, the local community got pretty upset because there was a statue of King Kamehameha who was going to go inside the lobby and not on the front drive. The local community was up in arms because how can you have a Fernando Botero statue as the first greeting you're going to get to come up to the hotel while King Kamehameha is in the lobby? That shouldn't be the way it is. King Kamehameha should give the welcome on the front drive. Botero, you can put him anywhere you want, but do not place King Kamehameha inside the lobby. He has to go on the front drive. Well, apparently Botero did not take kindly to this news. He was commissioned to do the front drive, and he stuck to his guns and said, no, if you want me to do the statue, I'll do it on the front drive. A little fight ensued. They went back and forth. Again, this is all hearsay, all legend. I have not confirmed this, but again, highly entertaining. What happens and how does this end up coming to a amicable conclusion? Botero finally relents. He says, okay, I'll put the statue of the reclining nude in the lobby and not on the front drive, but I have a condition. And the condition was, as he asked the hoteliers, he says, I understand there's going to be a presidential suite on the top floor that overlooks not only the ocean, but the other side will actually look towards the lobby. Is that right? And the hotel construction folks confirmed, yes, that's true. We'll have a beautiful presidential suite that will overlook the ocean and will overlook the lobby. And he said, well, how much will a suite like that cost on a nightly basis? And the person saying, oh, anywhere between, $9,000 to $10,000 a night for this presidential suite. Now, if you know anything about Botero, you know he's a man of the people, an artist, kind of against the power structure, power to the people type thing. His demand was that, okay, I'll put this statue in the lobby, but you have to make sure her fat ass looks up to that presidential suite. So anybody who's stupid enough to pay $10,000 for a suite has to stare down at her ass all day long. And that to me is using your artwork for a purpose and a cause. Anyway, again, if you can confirm this, if you work for the Grand Wailea Resort and know anything about this story, please feel free to write in the comments and correct me, or feel free to steal this story and tell it yourself, because whether it's true or not, it's a highly entertaining story. Please do put the caveat that you don't know it's true and that this is all hearsay and legend. But what a legend. No, what a legend. Anyway, guys, Fernando Botero themed teaser here for Unhospitality. Again, join us January 2026. We're thrilled to be bringing this to you. I appreciate your support. Until we talk again, safe travels.
Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world.